Who are the two TypeScript fools? Does the world need a TypeScript podcast? And most importantly, is it pronounced Vite or Vite? Welcome to TypeScript FM, the friendly podcast for TypeScript developers where we bring you news, updates, and interviews from the community with plenty of tomfoolery sprinkled in. I'm your host, Kamran Ayub, and I'm joined by my co-host and best bud, Eric Onerheim. Together, we're the two TypeScript fools. Welcome to the show. Thanks, everybody, for joining. This is TypeScript FM. We have no idea what we're doing, which is why the title of this episode is Two TypeScript Fools, One Podcast. So I'm Kamran Ayub, and I have my partner in crime over here. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Eric Onerheim. We do TypeScript. We do a lot of it.
We're two TypeScript fools. So I think we would just want to start with this first episode of being like a really quick sort of introduction to who we are, why we're doing this, why does the world need a TypeScript podcast, and what we've been up to. And then we will do a little bit of news, but the focus of the rest of the episodes, each episode is going to focus on either a topic, an interview, or a piece of major news. But we always want to include like a news segment. So we'll get into that, I think, after we introduce ourselves a little bit. So I want to start with Eric and me together. There's something really fun for like what sparked this podcast. When we first started to get into TypeScript, Eric, do you remember where we were when we first heard about TypeScript?
Yeah, I think we were at Microsoft Build or one Microsoft conference. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Microsoft Build.
I'm wearing the Microsoft Build t-shirt. I don't think it was Microsoft Build 2017. I think I actually got rid of the t-shirt that we got from the TypeScript conference. But we were in the room when Anders announced TypeScript.
Yeah, that was 2013 or something.
Yeah, it was 2013. We can look at the Wikipedia. When was TypeScript introduced? Whatever, that year. We were there.
More than a decade ago. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, we were there in the room. And I don't know about you, but my reaction to hearing about TypeScript, and this was when we were both .NET developers, doing .NET all day, full time. My first reaction to hearing about TypeScript was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I mean, I know JavaScript, and I've been doing JavaScript for a long time, even before that day. But I was like, you're telling me that I can bring some of the static typing goodness of C# to JavaScript, and we can make type-safe web apps. Like, this is huge.
Yeah, and we were struggling on my team at the time. We were building a hybrid mobile app on the iPad, and before TypeScript was announced, it was like, you just had to be really careful about what you were doing, because any misstep and you just crash the app on the iPad, and it's really hard to recover in a hybrid mobile app. And there's like, you can't refresh the screen. You have to kill the app and start it up again. So when this was announced, we were like, oh my God, we needed this, because we had like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of lines of JavaScript.
Yep. And
we're like, okay, well, this is, madness. And especially when they were saying like JavaScript at scale, like this is, especially when you're working on a team and multiple people are doing stuff. Like, I was like, okay, we need this. This is going to help a lot.
So that brings us to like where we were at that time. So we were working together. We both worked at General Mills. That was my first job out of college. I think it was.
It was my first full-time job out of college.
Okay. Yeah. But you did an internship somewhere else, I believe.
Yeah.
But it was my first internship, my first full-time job. We met there. We were on the same sort of team, working on stuff. And then we got to go to this conference together. We went to multiple conferences together, but eventually we ended up on the same team after 2015. We worked on the DevOps team, for lack of a better terms, what you would call it now.
Yeah, it was the DevOps team, probably, for like,
I think it was
developers.
Web platform, right?
Yeah, it was web platform team, I think it was called.
Yep. So we got to know each other really well. And then you started a project. What project was that?
Yeah, so I started Excalibur.js, which is a TypeScript first friendly game engine for the web. And it was partially done out of like two things. Like my boss at the time had told me to give a presentation about TypeScript, which
Okay.
I was okay with because I was pretty like excited about it. And he was like, "All right, well, give a presentation." I'm like, "What?" Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay. So I went and put together like a game because I was like, okay, what could be fun to
Mhm.
do with TypeScript? And I was like, oh, let's do a game. And that game that I presented in that first presentation eventually became Excalibur. So
Yep.
like honest to God, like all of the stuff in there is like in some way, in the in Excalibur, like
Mhm.
if you go back to the first commits in 2013, like literally right after TypeScript was announced, like Excalibur used, I think, 0.8.2, which is
Uh-huh.
the pre-release like beta of TypeScript.
Yep.
Like Excalibur has gone through every version of TypeScript. I can say that
Yep.
because it has. And we started from the beginning. So
Yep. So we've been using TypeScript since essentially day one. I mean,
yeah.
day one of public announcement, public release.
Yeah.
Since so from there, uh, you stayed at General Mills for a little while. We both did until about 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
I
That sounds
moved
right.
on to going to Target where I worked full time. And there was doing a lot of TypeScript, working on internal enterprise apps. And then eventually moving on to Target.com, the web platform team, which my entire 2 years or 3 years there on that team was migrating Target.com, which was a 1 million plus line JavaScript app, to TypeScript, and TypeScript and React. And not the entire app, but what we did was all these product teams had their own subsites and sub areas of the website. So we built the entire platform that allowed them to build their subsections on the new target.com. But like I was in charge of migrating the global stuff. So global header, global footer, doing all the global data fetching, architecture, and all that kind of stuff, all written in TypeScript. So not only was that a major app migration where we migrated the entire app all the way to TypeScript, I was teaching TypeScript. So like having to mentor people, here's, JavaScript developers, senior JavaScript developers, people who hated TypeScript,
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
helping them understand like here's what we're doing with TypeScript, and not exactly trying to convert them over to TypeScript, but at least see a lot of the benefits of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I am happy to say that a lot of the people who either didn't like TypeScript at the beginning started to love it,
Yeah.
or if they didn't love it, they at least understood like why we were doing it.
Yeah.
Because I think what I always told people was the biggest benefit of TypeScript is the readability of like coming into a brand new code base. And with JavaScript, you have no idea what these objects are that are being passed around, what the data structures are. And TypeScript just allows you to
Yeah.
make that a little bit more readable.
Yeah. I remember in like the big JavaScript apps of the past before TypeScript, we'd have to run it to know what things were. And
Yep.
you were just in the debugger the whole time to know like what properties or functions existed on something.
Debugger. I think you're talking of console.log. Is that what you mean?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. There was plenty of that too, especially in the hybrid mobile app.
Yeah.
Like we had the like console log, which it was Cordova at the time, and then you'd have it hooked up to a Mac and you'd be like reading the
Hmm.
output on the Mac. Yeah, that was caveman debugging.
Well, the hardest part for me, so coming from .NET, where we live in the debugger, the Microsoft Visual Studio is really good at doing debugging, right? It's an integrated development environment. Uh, Going over to Node.js, which was mostly terminal based, and this was even before Visual Studio Code, there
Hmm.
really was no great way to do debugging. Like you would have
Yeah,
to start Node in debug mode with inspect break and all that kind of stuff, and you'd
yeah,
have
yeah,
to use Chrome debugger. So majority of developers that I worked with didn't know how to do the debugger, or if they were, they were just doing it in the browser, not
yeah.
on the server.
There was a lot of friction to hook up a debugger.
Yeah. So,
You,
and
you know,
we live in a nicer world now where it's like
yeah,
one click to like set up Visual Studio Code debugging and stuff.
yeah,
So I'm really glad that we've moved on to that. And with TypeScript, it just makes it even better. But so then I worked at Target for a while. I quit in 2021. I went solo, working on my own app, and doing Pluralsight authoring and stuff, which is what I do full time now.
mhm.
What was your journey like after General Mills?
Yeah, we left. I think we left General Mills on the same week, and I went to Renaissance Learning, which is a educational software kind of focused on assessment and literacy.
Hmm.
Um, and doing a lot of front end there, a lot of TypeScript, like even from the beginning, like we run every flavor of Angular that has ever been published, I think. So or ran it at one time. Like even we like there was a way to do like types on Angular 1 as well. So we even like used TypeScript with Angular 1.
Hmm.
And then when Angular 2 came out, we went with that. And now we're on like what is it, 18, 19? Some high, teen number of Angular, but it's all like TypeScript first. And we've definitely felt the pain of Angular upgrades over the years, arguably worse than .NET upgrades. I'd say like by a factor of two or three.
Oh, really?
They were at least, especially before 10.
Hmm.
There was a lot of like API churn in Angular
Okay.
before Angular 10. It's leveled out now. It's far less painful now
Hmm.
to do upgrades. But before 10, it was really rough. And then I think also before 10, there was like custom Webpack config. Now the Angular compiler kind of hides that from you. So you don't have, you have less opportunity to blow your feet off
Yep.
with the Webpack config. And, did a lot of, I became the company Webpack expert, which is not something you want. But, it's super powerful. I mean, like as much as we can rag on Webpack, it is super powerful to
Well, I
do.
remember you attended. Is it Sean Larkin?
Yeah,
Who?
yeah. He did a front end masters about
Yes.
it, and that's when it really clicked. So if
Yeah.
anyone's out there that are like, oh man, Webpack, go watch that. It's very good. Sean does a really great job of like laying it out very plainly
Hmm.
how Webpack works, and it's just a fancy pants way of converting files into JavaScript, you
Hmm.
know, and it follows the import. When you import a file, like what does Webpack do? It says, okay, do I need to convert this file to JavaScript? Yes, no. Okay, let's
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
And that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, we've lived through the evolution of web development since the beginning. I mean, I started with PHP and ASP, not even .NET, just
Me
PHP,
too.
ASP, and but still at the same time doing JavaScript, like because
Yeah.
for doing website development, and that was at the time where you would go to websites and like search for what the thing you wanted to do was, and then you copy paste it into your web page and hope that it works. And I mean, I guess we still do that with Stack Overflow, but or Copilot. But anyway, this was before all these patterns were introduced, right? Even before jQuery.
Yeah.
jQuery gets introduced, and we're introduced to this new paradigm of hey, it's a lot easier to manipulate HTML. We're going to use it to dynamically render HTML. Then we live through this like renaissance of sort of like dynamic templating frameworks and stuff. I mean, we had used Knockout.js at
Yeah.
General Mills for a while.
Yeah. That
And
was
that,
kind of our first spa like crack. We
yep,
used Backbone, custom
yes.
Backbone router with
Mhm.
Angular, or not Angular, excuse me, with Knockout. Like this was pre Angular. Like we were like, oh, Angular's too new.
Right. Yep. So we did that. Then I think General Mills sort of standardized on Angular, which made sense because it was enterprise focused. And then by the time we left, we were doing a little bit of React, but not too much. And then at Target, it was all React, all Node.js, all JavaScript, and TypeScript. So that's what we've been doing. And then I've brought that into like the apps that I'm building now. I'm mostly working with React nowadays, TypeScript in almost every instance, and then like .NET, and C Sharp, and
Mhm.
doing backend stuff with that. So I've done full stack JavaScript, but then also full stack .NET, and stuff. So
Yeah, same. I didn't say this about Renaissance, but yeah, we're also a .NET shop. So like, yeah. But through
well,
acquisition, we run every technology known to man.
well, I think this is a nice segue into like why are we starting this podcast? Because I think what we've seen now is this evolution of TypeScript from being I think Microsoft did it right where they really targeted enterprise developers who didn't like JavaScript at first, right? So TypeScript adoption was super niche in like Fortune 500 companies, I think at the start, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And now it's proliferated enough to where like the average person is starting to get into TypeScript because now so many more libraries are built with TypeScript. The sort of the general JavaScript population is now getting more familiar with TypeScript. Even the ones that don't want to, they're coming up against stuff that's built in TypeScript. We've got Deno, which evolved after Node.js, right? So
yeah,
Node.js huge is the primary like ecosystem in JavaScript. And now we're starting to see Deno 2.0 as like here's the next generation of, this is going to bring TypeScript to the masses type of deal.
yeah,
We've got all the major runtimes supporting TypeScript, including Node.js 23 or Node 23 is going to support it, and Bun already supports it, and obviously Deno's TypeScript first, written in TypeScript, or actually written in Rust,
yeah.
written in Rust,
And
TypeScript first.
and maybe the web will, if the types as comments proposal. I don't know if that's the name of it anymore, but like there's the, you know what I mean, the ECMA proposal types as comments. Like
Hmm.
it'll be able to run TypeScript code. It
Oh,
won't
sure.
enforce types, but
Yep.
it'll be able to run it without any changes.
Yep. But anyway, point is TypeScript proliferation increasing. Stack Overflow, what was the number 5 in programming
Yeah,
languages? Yes.
think that is true. Yeah,
At least for professionals and people that are learning it, it's still number 9, so it's still in the top 10. So people are learning TypeScript. Professionals are using it already. And I just think, or we thought that there was a gap in like TypeScript content because we followed TypeScript creators before, like Matt Pocock, who's huge in the TypeScript community. We follow, TypeScript language developers and stuff. But when we search for like, is there a TypeScript podcast? There's been a few, but I mean, they've all sort of fallen off the bandwagon. And like,
Mhm.
we just think that there's kind of an opportunity to do a whole new show on TypeScript.
Yeah.
Um,
I My prediction is it's really going to pop more than it already has,
yeah,
especially with the kind of like the major runtimes, as you said,
yeah.
starting to support it.
Well, we will dive deeper, I think, into Deno and the ecosystem and what we think, like what our predictions for 2025 are and beyond and stuff. I think in later episodes. But suffice it to say, we think there's a lot of opportunity with TypeScript. We think it's going to grow, and we think there's room for a podcast that's dedicated to TypeScript, not just JavaScript. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, we hope you give the show a chance. I think there's our motivation for actually doing this. Like, why are we going to keep doing it? So first, I think we're going to commit to maybe doing, I think, 12 episodes. That would be 12 weeks and
Yeah.
seeing how it goes.
Yeah.
But I think we would love to do this continually. And we have good reason to do so because, as Eric mentioned, he's working on Excalibur.js, and that is a free open source TypeScript game engine. So, in order for people to build games with Excalibur, they need to know TypeScript, which means that part of our mission for the open source Excalibur engine is to teach people TypeScript. And I've done a course before, an 8-hour course on mastering TypeScript. It's no longer you can't buy it anymore. But I've taught TypeScript, and I really enjoy teaching people TypeScript. Eric's been working, as we've already covered, day to day for the last 12 years or whatever, working in TypeScript.
Yep.
So we're knee deep in TypeScript, and we want to bring it to more people. And obviously, with the opportunity of like TypeScript growing, we just think this podcast is a really good channel to do that. And like, yes, we'll be talking about Excalibur, but Excalibur.js itself, the open source version, is non-commercial. So there's no like we don't plan to have really sponsors for this podcast. It's just
Uh-huh.
sponsored by Excalibur.js.
Yeah.
As like,
Because we build it, so
yeah,
we're the ones.
yep, exactly. And there is commercial plans for Excalibur, but not not the core version. So
Yeah.
we're doing something totally separate.
Yep.
And that'll be more of like game publishing and stuff. So
Yeah.
um, the the mission for Excalibur.js is to remain free and always will be. It has a
Yep.
BSD2 license, right?
It will never change.
Yeah,
You heard it here first.
that's right.
Excalibur.js will never not be open source.
Yeah, and why would we want it? I mean, we
Yeah.
wouldn't want it to be commercialized anyway, because
Yeah.
that would go against our mission of democratizing game dev. So we want Excalibur.js to be accessible to web developers, and the the best experience you can have with it is by using TypeScript. I mean, it supports JavaScript obviously, but the best experience is going to be with TypeScript, which means we want to get TypeScript in front of as many people as possible. So this works towards that goal. And I
Yeah.
think that sort of is like the motivation for why we want to do this. We're going to just do a really quick news segment in this first episode just because we don't have that much time. But I think what you can expect from this podcast, because we probably want to talk about what to expect. So obviously we're going to cover news and updates. We really want to get people from the community on, because yes, we're day-to-day practitioners, but it's not like we're TypeScript influencers. There's so many really awesome people working in TypeScript and teaching TypeScript and doing really cool stuff. We want to get them onto the podcast. And then we also just want to cover news and updates. So specific things that are related to the TypeScript community, we want to bring to the forefront. So in this episode, we're just going to do a really quick, like, whirlwind. Here's some of the major news. And what you can expect is that we're going to cover each of these big items in like dedicated episodes. So I think first piece of big news is that Vite 6 was released. That was back in November. And it has much better TypeScript support. Eric, have you played with it yet?
Yeah. I think the thing around Vite that's really nice is it just works. I
Mm-hmm.
think is the
There's
kind
no
of
like extra configuration for
no,
TypeScript.
no, it's a lot easier than setting up like a Webpack config for building TypeScript.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put it in the same camp as like, Parcel, as like it's as easy as like point it at your TypeScript, you're done.
Yep.
And it's great. So, and then I think the big killer feature in Vite 6 is like the environments API.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely check that out. It's going to be super useful for like more complex apps, like if you need that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I've been using Vite 6 for all of my Pluralsight labs, because we need to we need to write tests in order to like verify that the learner, did the right thing for each of the steps. And
Yeah.
so I've been using Vite day to day for that, and Vitest also, which is now that's like my new default stack. So like where it used to be Webpack and Jest is now sort of replaced by Vite and Vitest.
I think I've been talked into switching the Excalibur test suite to Vitesse.
Oh yeah,
So,
it's really nice.
yeah.
And it's super comfortable if you're coming from Jest. It is very similar API. It's like a pretty
Yeah.
straightforward migration. What's nice is like, again, there's like hardly any config that you need. There's a little bit of config that I need for my lab environment, but it's still really minimal. Next big news, Deno 2. In fact, Deno 2.1, that was in November, but Deno 2 was this year. And I think that's really what triggered this whole conversation of like, we've been thinking about doing a TypeScript podcast. Is it ready? Is the world ready for it yet? And then Deno 2 hits, and it's like, oh my God, they've opened up the entire ecosystem now.
Yeah. If
Because
you've
you
written
can-
off
you can take
Deno
your
after Deno
Node.js
1,
tests.
you need to definitely check out Deno 2 because
Yeah.
they've like improved things tremendously. Like the whole thing is full of awesome stuff. Like
Yes.
I think the thing that I'm probably like the most excited about is the Deno compile for
Mhm.
building executable apps with TypeScript.
Yep.
So you can just like make an exe from Deno compile, which I think
Yep.
is super cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I made an effort to try to learn Deno through Advent of Code, which was in December. So I completed 5 puzzles with it, enough to get to one of the sticker levels that Deno had been doing. But I found it to be like really approachable and straightforward for someone coming from Node.js. Because I mean, the big update for Deno 2 was support for the Node.js ecosystem. So you can bring in npm packages, and it has a Node.js compatibility layer.
Right.
So you can import, node colon fs, and you get your fs stuff if you're doing file system stuff. But what I tried to do with Advent of Code was try not to use any of the node stuff and just do Deno stuff. And it was all really nice and straightforward. And what I loved about it is that it's just so integrated. So with things where you would have to pull in ESLint or Prettier or all these extra tools in the tool chain is just all built into Deno format, Deno lint, et cetera, Deno
It really
compile.
has like a feeling kind of like Go,
Yeah.
where the Go CLI just kind of has all of the bits that you
Yep.
need.
Or I mean, even just coming from .NET, it feels very .NET-y, where it's like you can use the .NET CLI to do everything.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So related to that, uh, does that mean that everyone has to migrate away from Node? Well, probably not, because in Node 23, apparently it's going to support TypeScript. So you can do node index.ts or node main.ts and it'll run it without any experimental flags. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to talk about in more detail because I haven't thought about it too much. Like, what does that mean when you can run native TypeScript with just regular Node, and what does it mean when you can use Deno? So how are those two going to interact is going to be kind of fun to look at over the next couple of years. And then finally, you've got your own little announcement with
Oh
the
yeah.
latest release of Excalibur.
Excalibur just dropped a new release, version 0.30.3. But it's got a bunch of cool stuff. In the VO30 release, we added just GPU particles. We added new graphics type, 9-slice types. We added tiling sprites. We added greater perform. Like we really turned the screws on performance. So like it's roughly 2 to 3 times faster than the previous version, which is wild. Both in the drawing side and in the like physics side. So
Yep.
both of those sides of the house got faster. So I'll be doing like a whole like release video about that, but it's pretty slick. It's it is V0 dot, but you shouldn't be too worried because we're approaching V1 here very soon. Definitely like in the earlier half of this year. The API is not going to change too much from what it is right now. So, I think you can feel confident using it if you wanted to use it in production. And there's a few people that have already started projects in production with it. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty
lot
cool.
of lot of fun plans for that, and we'll obviously do a deeper dive episode on Excalibur at some point to cover that. But I think that concludes some of the major news. And again, like I said, hopefully we can dive into each of these updates in more detail next time. So what you should expect in the next few episodes is we're gonna take care of news first, because we want to respect your time. So if you want to stick for the news, we'll do that first, and then we'll have the deeper dive conversation afterwards. TypeScript FM is sponsored by Excalibur.js, the friendly TypeScript game engine for the web. Like many of you, I got into computers because I loved video games and dreamed of making one, but game development always felt a bit intimidating. Instead, I built a career in web development, though that dream of making games never really went away. Then I met Eric, who showed me I could use my HTML, CSS, and JavaScript skills to create games with just a bit of game design knowledge and the right engine. Excalibur.js makes game development approachable, offering everything you need to build 2D web games: arcade physics, sprites, animations, input support, and integrations with tools like Tiled and Sprite. It's beginner-friendly, yet flexible enough to grow with you. Our team has published 10 games using Excalibur, all written in TypeScript. If you're a web developer looking to dip your toes into game dev or sharpen your TypeScript skills, give Excalibur.js a try at excalibur.js.com. Click the big tutorial button to start building your first game, Excalibur, a Flappy Bird clone. After that, join our friendly Discord community of web developers who love to help each other and share game dev tips. Okay, now for the next segment, I guess we're not really sure what to call it. Maybe it'll be TypeScript tricks. Maybe it'll be TypeScript tips and tricks. I don't know what's new in TypeScript, but basically, have we seen anything cool around town in the past week? So Eric, maybe what have you been up to?
I've been playing around with Quick.js. That's been pretty fun. I've got some progress. So I'm gonna maybe switch gears and see what I can do with Deno compile.
Oh yeah.
That's I'm kind of curious to see if I can get Angle and Deno compile working together. I figured out how to do static linking yesterday.
Okay.
So it's just one exe.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to copy DLLs around and stuff. So you can just like send someone an exe and then it'll work.
Well, the thing, yeah, Deno compile would be good, and then also what you're saying about Quick.js, because I've never heard of Quick.js, so I think a little intro
Oh,
on that would be cool. Yeah.
yeah. Quick.js is pretty slick. It's kind of a, if you think about how Lua is to C, it's Quick.js is kind of the same relationship to C,
Hmm.
where you can embed like a JavaScript interpreter into your C program. It's pretty slick. It's one file. It's like it's super easy to roll into your project. So like if you needed to add JavaScript scripting to like your app or
Mm-hmm.
your game, like and you like JavaScript, you could do that.
Nice.
And I think a lot of people do the same thing with like Lua and other like game engines and stuff. Like Lua is also just a single C file. You can embed it really easily. And Quick.js, the API really looks a lot like how you interact with Lua in C.
Okay.
It's pretty slick. Um,
Nice.
and Amazon's been using it to experiment with improving cold starts on like Node lambdas, JavaScript lambdas, by using Quick.js instead of using Node.
Oh.
One advantage is they don't have to run a JIT because Quick.js is completely interpreted. It doesn't have a JIT. Um, and I don't think it's planned to, which is good and bad. The good part is like it boots immediately and it can start executing immediately
Yep.
because it's just full interpreted mode, which is great for a Lambda. It's bad for long-lived programs. So, and bad relative terms, like a JIT will make, you'll amortize the cost of a JIT over the length of the running program.
Uh-huh.
So, like V8 is really good. Like your JavaScript will run really fast because it'll figure out what your program is doing and then
Yep.
be able to like emit machine code.
Mm-hmm.
But some platforms don't like that. So,
Okay.
for example, iOS doesn't like you emitting machine code on the fly because I think, like, if I remember right, like the Xamarin stuff does ahead of time compilation.
Okay.
So they don't, .NET doesn't run the JIT in iOS, I think. Don't
Mm-hmm.
quote me on that one. And same for like game consoles. Similar, similar reasons. It's mostly security. They don't want like, you know, some like wild assembly being emitted
Yep.
by your thing, whatever it is,
Yeah.
unless it's their thing.
Yeah.
so, so
Cool.
that's a big part of it.
Nice.
Um, yeah. No, I've been playing with that. You know, uh, some cool stuff that's been happening is we've been working with contributors to do like lighting in Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been pretty cool. Um, it's looking like it's going to work. So hopefully this month we land some like actual honest to goodness like lighting support
Nice.
out of Excalibur. That'll be really cool.
Yeah, that is sweet.
Uh,
Can finally make some stealth games.
oh yeah, no, totally. Like I think that's what one of the guys was saying they wanted to do. And he was like, "Oh, I bet I could do volumetric fog." I'm like, "Oh no, nerd sniped."
Uh-huh.
Um, the other thing I'm working on is multipass, like multipass shaders.
Yep.
So right now, we only support like a single pass, which you can do everything you can in a single pass. You just have to combine
Mm-hmm.
shader programs, which some people don't want to do. Makes sense. Um, uh, but multipass gives you the ability to do like many passes really easily. So
Yeah.
like for example, like you're doing like bloom or Gaussian blur, those
Mm-hmm.
things like require multiple passes to get that effect. So
Nice. Sweet.
yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked. Really, things are feeling close to done. There's just some more polish, a couple of big features that we talked about, like accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
UI
Yep.
specifically. I kind of like how Pixie did it, and they kind of make a hidden DOM that represents your game.
Hmm.
And that's how they do it. So we're kind of kicking around ideas like that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for accessibility, in order to
yeah,
support like basically like dynamic ARIA live region type
yeah,
deals. Yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So,
Makes
um,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, that's a big part. And then I think the only like really big thing is like input mapping, like
Yeah.
making that first class, because that's another kind of like intersection with accessibility.
Yep.
Like input mapping is like a huge deal, but also it's a huge deal to like people that like controllers or like keyboards or like a certain layout.
Yep.
Um, so we're looking at like building a plugin that will just pop like you just include it and you get a free UI for doing input mapping with whatever you want. So Excalibur games can just have like the pit of success,
Yep.
where you can just map inputs however you want and it'll remember them.
Yep.
So that's cool stuff. Um, it's been pretty slick.
Awesome.
How you been? What you been working on?
I've been working mostly on keep track of my games. So, obviously, I've been working on playthrough tracking, which is going to be the next major feature.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been doing a lot of TypeScript development with that specifically because it's all front end based.
Right.
So, I was in search of some charting libraries. So, people might be familiar with like high charts, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty big library and really good accessibility and stuff like that. However, it is commercial, like you got to pay for licensing and stuff. I actually found one, and I don't have a link to this. I think it's called Nuo, New Nuvo charts,
Oh, I think I've heard of those.
Nuvo
Yeah.
charts, Nevo.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds familiar.
So it's built on top of D3 and React. So that's what I'm using to do really fun like playtime graphs. Like how's your playtime on your games over time? How many sessions per day are you doing? What's your percentage progress over time? Like it shows like a cumulative type of graph. So that's what I've been working on. And
Like,
the UI itself is pretty well, I've tried to make it simple, but it's complicated behind the scenes because it's like a one big form, right? So
yeah.
you want to log like how much time you spent playing a game, but you also need to log different trackers. So if you're tracking your overall story progress or you're tracking a collectible progress, like how many collectibles you've got in the session, and like what platform are you playing on, what difficulty, but like you don't need to track all that type of stuff every single time you want to log your session, right? So the UI, I've tried to make it so that it's smart by default, so it'll
Mhm.
just pull the last stuff that you had in your last session as the
Right.
defaults, and it doesn't show it all at once. So it tries to keep the UI really simple. But in order to do that, there's a lot of complex coding behind the scenes. So I actually am using React hook form to do like dynamic form based rendering and stuff. So
Yeah. Ain't that just the way? Like,
yeah,
to make something simple, it's deceptively complex.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To make something easy is hard. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And then, well, the other thing I've been working on, as you know, so I'm doing Pluralsight authoring, not only courses, but we do labs too, these
Yeah.
interactive
Yeah.
labs. So the last one I did was on Quick City, and Quick City is all TypeScript first. So like I even tried to, I had to like, because Pluralsight is like, if you can do it in JavaScript, you should do it in JavaScript because people who know TypeScript already know JavaScript, right? So you're supposed to try to do JavaScript as much as possible.
Sure.
Well, fun part of Quick City is that they don't even have a JavaScript starter template. And
Oh,
second
it's
of
all
all,
right.
I tried to convert it into JavaScript, and it just like didn't like
Uh,
it. So it's definitely, I would even say TypeScript only, but at least TypeScript first.
yeah.
Um, so
I
I
think
got the
Angular's that way too, like the
Angular's that way
modern
too, yeah.
Angular.
And I got approval to do it TypeScript first. So that was actually my very first Pluralsight content that was all TypeScript. which I was really excited for because I've been wanting to do more TypeScript content on Pluralsight. But anyway, I finished that lab, but I learned about this thing, this library called Zod. Have you used Zod?
Oh yeah, that's one of my all-time, like that's the one tool in my Batman's tool belt that I
Yep.
use a lot
Yeah. So
for
for
validation.
Yeah, so for people that aren't familiar, like if you're familiar with like prop types on React, or if you are familiar with JSON schema validation, basically you have an object that has properties, and these properties need to follow a specific schema. Well, Zod is like a type first way of declaring that schema and the validation necessary. So not only does it validate it, I think at runtime, but it also validates it at compile time.
Yep.
So you get compiler errors if your stuff doesn't match, the expected Zod schema. So anyway, Quick City uses Zod natively for like form validation. So that was one of the
Oh, cool.
demos I put together. Was like, hey, we've got this form. Wouldn't it be great if we could validate it? Well, you don't have to write any custom code. I mean, they support doing custom validation where you can be like name.length is greater than 2 or whatever, but you can also just pass in a Zod validation schema. So you can say, dot max length or dot min length or whatever.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah, that's
will
pretty
just
slick.
generate it for you.
Yeah. I ripped through my most recent use of Zod is I ripped through the tiled API definition for their files.
Okay.
And I produced a Zod schema for
Nice.
like tiled JSON format.
Yeah.
So I can know for sure whether or not I should just bomb if I've got something that it doesn't look like it came from tiled, or it's like a tiled version that I don't support.
I think this would be a great use case, I think, for something like Copilot. If you got JSON and you want to create a Zod schema from it, it's not going to be perfect because it's not going to have all the permutations of like what the types could be.
Yeah.
But it could give you a good starting point.
We should try that out.
To like actually generate a Zod schema for you.
Yeah, that's the type of minutia and repetitive task that I think that a LLM would be really good at.
Yeah,
potentially.
So sweet. Yeah. Well, that concludes our TypeScript tricks segment. So I think that is the end of the show. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm Kamran, and
I'm Eric. Thank you very much.
Eric, and we are two TypeScript fools, and we will see you next time. Hi, everyone. This is Kamran. I just wanted to thank you for listening to the show, and we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to see the show notes, you can check your podcast player or go to TypeScript.fm, where you'll see a list of all the episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell your friends, and please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, because that's how the show grows and gets discovered by more people. If you want to suggest news or a project that should be covered, or just want to say hi, email us at feedback@typescript.fm. If you want to follow us on social, we're both active on Blue Sky. I'm at kamranigas.com, and Eric is at ericownerheim.com. You can also follow the show directly at typescript.fm.